Riddle me this, tally baldy we hail. Has WWE forgotten it's meant to tale tales? I know we don't usually start with rhymes and poems here on Ups and Downs, but it is Saturday and we're here to have a good old time. But yeah, I mean, SmackDown at the moment is fine. It's okay. It is a more than watchable show, but you get to the end of every episode and you go, well, why would I tune in to next week? Like, there are some good bits in it, but I want it to end on a big cliffhanger. I want it to end on something that makes me go, oh my gosh, if I miss whatever happens in 7 days' time, I may as well take my head and smash it into a wall because my life just isn't worth living. But let's go through the whole thing and let's give the good bits up and the bad bits are down, because that's what we do here on WhatCulture Wrestling, and I appreciate you tuning in. My name is Simon Miller. Let's up those downs. The start of SmackDown opened up with both Team Hogan and Team Flair just stood in the ring. Because there were no entrances and everybody had kinda a colourful costume, it was a bit like you'd gone down to your local theatre to watch some pantomime. But I guess that's what wrestling is. Give it up. The main reason for this is because Miz was hosting a Miz TV segment to allow Team Hogan and Team Flair just to yell at each other. But quite amazingly, even though WWE would ruin this in around about 30 minutes time, we didn't have any of the Raw guys in the ring because they are Raw guys, therefore they're not allowed onto SmackDown. But really, when we get to it, like I say later on, this was even worse because there is just not one fixed rule to do with this. It's just strange. So yeah, this was designed just so Hogan and Flair could get their catchphrases in and say that when their two teams do clash at Crown Jewel in around about 1 week's time, they will be victorious. And the idea here was to pretend that it's a bit like actually seeing Ric Flair versus Hulk Hogan in a wrestling match. Of course it's not. That's poppycock. And the real sadness of all of this is that Shorty G is 100% being called Shorty G because he got on the microphone and said that he is owning who he is. Being short is nothing to be ashamed of. You don't have to own it. You're just short. Who gives two hoots? I'm never going to get behind it down. Everybody else then butted in, including Tally Baldy, who still thinks he's actually a king. And just to summarize it for you, if you do not like WWE scripted promos, never ever watch this segment. It's a bit like when you watch James Bond, and James Bond in the middle of a group of baddies, and the baddies run in, and they all take one hit, and you, the viewer, are like, well, if you all ran in, and you all attacked James Bond, you'd probably win. That's what we did here. Everybody had their line, then they got interrupted and cut off by somebody else, but rather than get annoyed, they just stood there and allowed themselves to be insulted. A challenge was then put out by Hogan for Nakamura, Sami Zayn, or should I say Sami Zayn surrogate Cesaro, because he was going to step in here, and Tally Baldy taking on Roman Reigns, Ali, and Chad Gable, not calling him the other one. And fair play to Hogan here, he was actually quite funny. He kind of played it up and he insulted Sami Zayn, and we will get that match in our main event. Everyone then brawled because that's what we do during opening segments. We'll talk about it later. It was then time for the New Day versus Bobby Roode and Dolph Ziggler, and a quick shout out to Xavier Woods here, who does seem to have suffered a very serious injury. Biggie and Kofi were talking to him here on an iPad, and the rumours are he may be out for around about a year. I like Xavier Woods, he seems like a really good dude, so nothing but healthy thoughts for the man, and I hope you get back real soon. As for the match, it was fine. Up. It turned out not to be a good few days for the New Day because they did lost here, and really they just need to start watching professional wrestling, as Dolph Ziggler clearly has been doing, because as soon as he saw the opportunity, he snuck behind Kofi, kicks them, and he hit him with the most devastating move in all of professional wrestling, the surprise roll-up, and he beat the New Day, or should I say, we saw a visual pinfall of Kofi Kingston, of course, around about, 3 weeks ago, was the WWE champion. And there's a bunch of people out there going, oh, I think they're like sowing seeds here that eventually Kofi Kingston's going to crack. He's like, oh, I can't believe off the championship. And yeah, fair play. Michael Cole and Corey Graves did mention that, but really, I can't see this happening. I just think WWE expects us to forget about it. It is very sad, it makes me want to cry, and it gets it down. Afterwards, the Revival came down to beat up the New Day before Heavy Machinery made the save, and backstage, the Lucha House Party and the B-Team were watching on, because basically this was just one big advert for the tag team match we're doing at Crown Jewel. But apparently, and I have seen this a few places, but I need it confirmed, next week on SmackDown, we're going to get the Revival versus the New Day in a SmackDown tag team title match. And how does that make any sense when the New Day just lost to Ziggler and Roode? So, we just gave that down. You can encompass this in one big giant down. The tag team division in WWE right now doesn't make any sense. It's like 1 + 1 equals 97. Rey Mysterio was then backstage with Cain Velasquez and his son Dominic. How does that make any sense? On Raw, I was told by Paul Heyman, hey, I can be here on Monday nights because I'm an advocate and I can go wherever I want, but Brock Lesnar can't because he's a SmackDown superstar. And now a few days later, Rey Mysterio, despite being a Raw superstar, is able to be on SmackDown. That's what I was talking about earlier. How can we have such huge jumps between the two? That WWE goes, oh well, we can't have the Raw guys on Team Hogan and Team Flair turn up on SmackDown because that will ruin the whole thing. But Rey Mysterio, meh, that's just one guy. He's not very tall. We can probably just sneak him in. No, you can't, WWE. Please just come up with some laws and stick to them. Like in the real world, if somebody gets murdered, they go to jail. And 10 times out of 10, if you get caught for murder, you go to jail. That's what I want. Down. There was a really good video for the Tyson Fury versus Braun Strowman match, and that kind of surprised me, but they made it out like it was the biggest thing to ever happen in the history of pro wrestling. We also saw highlights of the angle that the two shot down at the Performance Center, and I quite like that. So fair play to all involved. Tip your cap. Give it an up. And we'll also give an up to Lacey Evans versus Cameron Connors. Why? I don't know, but up. Well, because it wasn't exactly offensive, it was decent, it was solid. Lacey Evans pretended that she wasn't going to fight in this skank town because, well, she didn't say skank, she said nasty, but it's the same thing, that's the vibe she was going for, and she actually left the ring. The referee was about to count to 10, then Lacey Evans changed her mind, she got back in, she punched her foe right in the face, pinned her. It was basically a squash match, but that's okay, right? We featured Lacey Evans. I don't know, probably could be doing more programs with the women, like Where's Carmella, for example. But I wasn't offended by it. Had a quick chat with Nikki Cross backstage, who's very excited about her match later on. And then we just had a new episode of the Firefly Funhouse. And there wasn't one explanation as to how Bray had got this back. Like Corey Graves joked maybe he just rebuilt the thing. But all that said to me is that when we came up with this idea of Seth Rollins to burn it down, it wasn't part of some long-term angle. It was just said in the writer's room, probably a few hours before Raw, and someone said, you know what would be really funny? We're going to burn down the Funhouse, even though that's the best thing that we have, and the fans love it. That is just nuts, given how popular and successful these skits have been. It may as well have never have happened. Down. As for the episode itself, I mean, this one felt a little bit more phoned in than usual, but it was still mind-bendingly creepy. Wyatt was holding a funeral for Ramblin' Rabbit, who had been killed in this fight, and as we've already pointed out during this ups and downs, it means Seth Rollins should now be wanted for murder, but magically when Wyatt grabbed him with his healing glove, the rabbit came back to life, but not for long, because then he was eaten by Mercy the Buzzard. Bray then said he would see us at Crown Jewel, and that was that. It kind of felt like this was rehab to a certain extent, and we just have to wait and see what happens till after that pay-per-view, because it's getting in the way of everything, like it always does. Callisto was then taken on Drew Gulak, and if you now think to yourself, well, that sounds like an odd random match that has come out of nowhere, it's because that's exactly what it is. It had nothing to do with these two wrestlers. Down. Beforehand, Drew did another PowerPoint presentation, which I still love, by the way, and I think we could do more with all of this, about Braun Strowman and how much he sucks, which meant halfway through the match, Braun Strowman came out, that distracted Gulak, he got hit with the Salida del Sol, and he lost to Callisto. And my question to you is, when the hell was the last time Callisto won a match on television? Braun then beat him up again and said that the only redeeming factor to Drew Gulak was the fact he deserved to be in a wrestling ring, and that Tyson Fury doesn't, because, you know, he's a boxing dude. And that's all well and good, but why couldn't have Strowman just come out and cut that promo? Why did he have to beat up a couple of guys too? I mean, we're all desperate for new characters at this stage, and while I'm not saying that Gulak and Callisto are going to be the answer to all of our problems, we could at least try. Who knows? Maybe the fans would gravitate towards them for some bizarre reason. This way of going, well, what we'll do is we'll put them in the ring, two brand new people, and then just ruin them and let the audience know, no, you're not supposed to respect these guys. I don't get the point. And has it got Braun Strowman any more over than he was 32 minutes ago? No, it hasn't. He's still the giant monster among men. It just doesn't sound like smart long-term planning to me. And the more I watch SmackDown, the more I realise, my gosh, we need smart long-term planning. But then you flip that on its head, because we kind of did get that with Daniel Bryan, and it's getting it up. The tease here was Michael Cole interviewing Daniel Bryan in the ring and teasing that maybe the Yes Movement was about to return. Just as Daniel was about to address this, Sami Zayn and Nakamura interrupted. They talked about how Bryan beat the Intercontinental Champion last week and how they respected him for that, and also showed a clip from November 2018 on SmackDown where Daniel Bryan had said the new Daniel Bryan is here and the Yes Movement is dead. Sami Zayn urged Daniel to remember that, because when he said those words, all the fans booed. Zayn went on to say there are similarities between all of them because he's a vegan and Nakamura respects the environment too, and he should come on board with this duo and make them a trio instead. And just when it looked like we were supposed to get an answer, Daniel Bryan just walked away. And I was like, why can't we get more of this throughout all of WWE? I get every angle can't be like, oh, what's going to happen next? But instantly I'm intrigued, and instantly I want to tune in next week. Is Daniel Bryan about to go back super babyface? Is the Yes Movement going to return? Or will we get a double swerve and actually get the team of Nakamura, Sami Zayn and Daniel Bryan? I mean, that ain't the worst thing in the world. I'd enjoy it. I don't think that we are, and I do think the most obvious explanation is what we're going to get, but it's about the journey, not the destination, and I like that destination anyway. It will make me feel satisfied, and when I feel satisfied, I feel warm and fuzzy, and everything's all right. And Nikki Cross versus Mandy Rose was also fine up. Sasha Banks and Bayley were on commentary. Nikki Cross won after she hit the net breaker, and then Bayley and Nikki Cross had a stare down because, of course, they're going to fight for the SmackDown Women's Championship. If you're thinking to yourself, Simon, you kind of flew by that. Well, that's how WWE treated this, so I may as well respond in kind. And do you know why they do this? Because of Crown Jewel, as I've already said, that thing just gets in the way. Despite all the nonsense when it does come to the brand split though, we then got the face-off between Cain Velasquez and Brock Lesnar, and it absolutely kicked ass. Give it up. Yes, Ray came out with Cain, which irked me right away. You already know all about that. And he got to the microphone and he thanked the fans once again for all their support when it came to his son Dominic. He then called Brock Lesnar out for this face-to-face, but he never got it. Because instead, Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar were in the back, and as it turned out, Brock had once again beaten the schmoz out of Dominic, and he picked him up from the floor like he was a dead rabbit. Cain and Mysterio ran to the back to help, but they were too late, and as Dominic was laying on the medical table, Lesnar appeared again. He hit them all with a trash can, he picked up Rey Mysterio, and he chucked him into the wall, and he even gave an F5 to Cain onto Dominic's lifeless body. I mean, that looked absolutely brutal. Had to have hurt. Brock came across like an absolute tool here, as well as a beast, as he should. And while I have no idea what is going to happen at Crown Jewel between these two, I think the build has been absolutely brilliant. I seem to be in the minority here and understand that Cain isn't really clicking with the WWE audience, but it's still early days. Let's see what's going to happen. Either way, this was great. Main event then rolled around, and it was, of course, Roman Reigns, Ali, and Shorty G taking on Baron Corbin, or should I say Tally Baldy, Nakamura, and Cesaro. And quite clear, I mean, we should have already known this. We should have picked up on it. The only reason Cesaro was put in this match is so that he could take the pin. That's why we've got the Swiss Superman stock meet. I can't remember what it's called. It's been a while, but the point is, ever since we've introduced that, he has just lost and lost and lost and lost and lost, and that's why it's still on 0. I will put it up to 1 when he actually gets a victory, but as of me saying these words, he does not. He is literally taking Sami Zayn's place, and I do not understand why. With all that said, it was a fine main event. It was fun. There was nothing wrong with it. Give it up. We don't crap over things just for the sake of it, and after Roman Reigns had speared Cesaro, he tagged in Ali because he's a good guy. Ali climbed to the top rope, he hit the 450, and he did indeed get the win for his team. And that is how SmackDown ended, which confused me because why didn't we swap this with the Brock Lesnar Cain Velasquez segment? That would have been much better and would have allowed the episode to end with a oh my god, I can't believe it moment, and probably get people to watch Crown Jewel, which is happening on Thursday. It was very baffling to me. So once again, it's a SmackDown that leaves me in a hard position because I watched 2 hours of wrestling TV. Like I say, it was okay, it was fine, it was solid, but when it was all done, if someone had come up to me and said, Simon, should I watch this? I'd be like, no, please watch Ups and Downs instead. I'd appreciate it, but you'd still probably get more, or at least the same, from watching the YouTube clips. There's nothing overwhelming at the moment, which is nuts. Because this is on Fox, and I get it, maybe WWE toned this one down because actually this would have been on FS1 because it got preempted for baseball or something like that. It's still crazy. But look, I'm a positive guy. Give my arrow, we'll give it an up, but this is it's another admin up. You know what I mean? Well, we give it an up because there was nothing truly horrific. But WWE, you really got to do something soon. Now, don't forget to leave a comment below and let us know what you think about all of this. Like, share, and subscribe. Head over to WhatCulture.com, read yourself some articles, follow WhatCulture on Twitter at WhatCulture WWE. Watch more videos here on WhatCulture Wrestling. My name is Simon from WhatCulture. Thank you again for joining me on a Saturday. It's still very strange to me. I'll see you again next week.